Good night and welcome to the Living Well Show, where we have holistic conversations that inspire healing, hope, and transformation with your hosts, Dr. Albert and Shanique Tompkins. I am Shanique and I'm happy to be here tonight.
Hi, I'm Dr. Albert. Welcome.
Well, we thank you all for tuning in on tonight, our third part of our love series. If you've missed anything, be sure to go back and catch the other episodes. They really were inspiring and insightful. But tonight we have another twist in this exploration of what love really means. And tonight's guest, Dr. Albert, will you go ahead and introduce him?
Yes, I will. We have our very own Bishop Cline, and we're going to talk about something very interesting as we continue with this love series. Part 3 is called The Monogamy Mystery: Why People Cheat in Their Relationships. And so Bishop Cline has a wonderful revelation about that, and we're going to talk about that. So our guest tonight, Bishop John Ivan Cline. He is the senior pastor at the New Life Baptist Church right here in Totola, BVI. He is a leader with a vision and firmly believes that as a child of God, we must impact the world, not only spiritually, but socially and also physically. So hence the church, in addition to the massive organization we have also a wonderful New Life Daycare Learning Center. And we also they expand the vision to Africa, where they have a primary and secondary school called the Totola Child Rescue Learning Center, and it's administered by a local pastor there in Kenya. They also have a wonderful program to help the widows. And then 2011, Bishop Cline acted on another vision that God has given him to construct a recreational facility that impacts youth called the Save the Seed Center, which is a multi-purpose sports facility where it helps create an impact for our community and that focuses on the youth. So Bishop Cline attributes his success to an influence of a godly parents and strong family ties, a caring church, and a supportive community. As a result, through his great vision that God has given him and his passion for people, Bishop Cline desires to pass it on to generations to come. So good night and welcome, Bishop Cline. Go ahead and greet the people, please.
Well, Pastor Tompkins and Shanique, it's such a pleasure to be here on your show tonight. Thanks for having me. Thanks for trusting me to come on to share this very touchy, controversial, but I think needed conversation. And to all those of you that are tuned in from around the world, wherever you are, both near and far, we pray that you stay tuned and let's have a good discussion tonight.
Certainly, certainly. And you're right. It is touchy, but I think it's relevant given the kinds of love people talk about nowadays and all kinds of relationships. And so we started out with talking about marriage, then we talk about God's love, but now we're going to talk about monogamy. So our first question right off the bat, Bishop, there's so much talk about love and relationships. What inspired you to write a book about relationships?
Well, you would read many books about the 5 love languages and how to love your marriage enough to save it and all of the nice mushy stuff. But you hardly can read within the Christian community, there's some outside, of dealing with infidelity. But yet it is probably 50 or 60% of all the people you counsel in as a pastor and in pastoral counseling, you have to deal with persons over and over again who have experienced some type of heartbreak, who have had to apologize because of a marital impropriety. And you see the children who are affected by broken relationships because a marriage ended because of infidelity. And the children become the victim or at least the casualties of those type of brokenness. And so after you see all that, but no one is want to speak openly about the subject of infidelity, what is the real cause? Is it just because men are bad, or is it because women are loose, or You know, some in here in the islands, we call him a bad thing if it's a woman, but if it's a man, he almost glorified as the
Mm,
man, you know.
that's true.
Um,
That's true.
but in the Christian community, you come to church and you pray and you lay hands and all of that on people, but that
Hmm.
doesn't always change the behavior.
That's right.
So I decided to write the book to create a platform to give the Christian community, and outside. It's not the book is not specifically to Christian because Christian and non-Christian all deal with the same issue,
Yeah.
but at least to give the Christian community an avenue and a platform for open and honest discussion around a subject that affects so many lives, whether it be the man's life, the woman's life, or their children's life, or
Hmm.
even people attached to them. It happens in the church, it affects the life of the church. Whether you're a pastor, you're a priest, you are president, I mean, it's all over.
Yeah.
So why not talk about it in a constructive way instead of always having to deal with the destructive consequences of such a relationship?
Yeah.
Wow, and we
So I wrote the
appreciate
book, The Monogamy Mystery.
and we appreciate your labor of love in delivering that book into the universe because it is something that's needed. So let's start at the beginning, the foundation. How would you define monogamy and a monogamous relationship?
So there are two types of monogamy. If you really if you want to be technical about it, there's serial monogamy,
Mm,
which is one partner at a time.
mm,
And so if you started dating at, let's say, 20, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, even though, it starts like 18 and 20, 17. But let's
right.
say 20. But you don't get married until you are, let's say, 30. Between 20 and 30, you have probably dated three, maybe four persons, right? Whether you're
Mm,
a man or a woman.
right.
So you're doing one at a time. That's serial monogamy. But there is what is natural and true monogamy is one partner for life.
Mm,
Now, one partner for life and true monogamy is only mostly found among some animals.
mm,
Serial monogamy is found among us as the human species.
hmm.
And so you have one partner at a time, or you have one partner for life. Now you have had some humans who met their high school sweethearts and marry them, and the story ends so lovely as in the storybook, and they live happily ever
Happily ever
after.
after, right?
But that is not common to man.
Right.
What is common to man is one partner at a time, and that is what we deal with when we speak about monogamy.
Okay. Okay. So now let's take it a step further. Now, why is monogamy important, right? And how does marriage play a role? How does it play a role in marriage, actually?
Well, the way we so let me start and go backwards, right? The
Okay.
way
Right.
we are socialized to accept one partner at a time here in the Western world.
Yeah.
If you were in Africa and you were not a Christian, if
Mm,
you were and even in India, some places in India, like the Sikh or a Muslim community, you can have more than one partner, and that's polygamy.
mhm.
Polygamy is a legal term
Right.
for having more than one wife. In some rare African cultures, you have what is called polyandry, which is
Hmm.
where the woman can have more than one husband.
Well, so
Um, yeah. So, but we don't hear about that.
right,
No, we
right.
So,
don't.
but the way we are socialized in monogamy. So you have monogamy, you have polygamy, and you have polyandry.
Yeah.
It plays a role in marriage because of one, the way we are socialized, and secondly, the way particularly the New Testament has framed marriage.
Right.
Um, and I say the New Testament because now I'm working my way back. The New Testament talks about you're having one woman, one man. If
Yeah.
you go back to the Old Testament now, you have to deal with the origin, which a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, not
Right.
his wives.
Right.
And you have God made Adam and Eve, not
Yeah.
Adam and Eve's, as
Right.
far as we understand it.
Right.
However, what I had to do within the book and in the biblical context is how do I reconcile what I just said, the New Testament presentation of marriage versus
Hmm.
in the beginning, one woman to one man, we see that presented. And then we see Abraham, who
Hmm.
had his children by two different women, and then his son Jacob had his sons, mostly, and he had some daughters by four different women.
Yeah.
And you come down the line, where we all know the famous David and Solomon
Hmm.
and many other Bible characters
Yeah.
that had more than one wife because it was a part of their culture.
Right. Right.
As a matter of fact, when David committed adultery with Bathsheba,
Hmm.
when the prophet Nathan went to David, he said this to him. He said, if you wanted another,
Right.
God would have given her to you.
Yeah.
You messed up because you went after another man's wife,
Yep.
not because you wanted another wife, because he already had about at least two wives,
Yeah.
according to the Tanakh, which is the Bible, the Jewish writers.
Yeah.
Um, he already had those. So when you speak about marriage, you have to speak it about not only from a biblical perspective, but the way we are socialized
Mm.
here in the Western world. Because if you were in Africa or in some of the Arabian Muslim countries, then
Hmm.
it's allowed
Yeah.
in their social construct and even their religious construct. As a matter
Yeah.
of fact, if you're Muslim and you commit the suicide bombing, you're promised seven virgins and
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So and so the 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 the, the question for me and what we wrestle with is even though we are socialized like that,
Hmm.
it is very difficult for most men, and this is done in the survey in the book, to whether they're Christians or not,
Hmm.
to faithfully execute their vows for better, for worse, richer, for poor, and I give myself to you, forsaking all others.
Mm.
Keep me only unto you until death do us part. We
Hmm.
find that very difficult. So my challenge was, why is that so? And
Right.
that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book. I want to understand what is the cause.
Yeah.
Because you see good men and good women who fall into the same moral misappropriation of infidelity,
Hmm.
and you want to understand they're not bad people,
Right.
but why? What's driving it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
So you wanted to know what is the cause. Now, did you find the cause and will you share that with us?
So I believe there are many contributing factors.
Mm.
So after I dealt with the theology of monogamy in the book, which is from God's point of view, which which from the biblical narrative, if we go to the beginning and we go to the New Testament and we see what God allowed or
Right.
permitted versus what he ordained,
Hmm.
then you have to come down that God preference or God command is for one man to be with one woman. That's the way
Hmm.
we understand it. That is our Christian belief.
Hmm.
After I dealt with the theology of monogamy, then I dealt with the biology of monogamy. What does that
Right.
mean? It
Right.
simply was asking the question, is there anything in our DNA, our genes,
Mm.
does our biological makeup lends itself to us being monogamous? And every research that I've done, every scientific journal that I've researched, there is nothing in our genes as humans or being mammals at the top of the mammal chain that
Mm-hmm.
make us monogamous.
Right.
Dogs are not monogamous, gazelles are not monogamous, goats are not monogamous, um, you name it, they're not.
Right.
There are only certain species of birds and dolphins that remain monogamous. So there's nothing biologically in our DNA
Mm.
that says when we are born, we would naturally gravitate
Mm.
to one partner and keep that one partner for life, or if we do serial monogamy, have the
Mm-hmm.
discipline, biologically speaking, to be with that one partner throughout your life, whether you're a Christian or not.
Right.
There's nothing biological. So
Okay.
then I had to deal with the sociology of monogamy.
Mm-hmm.
How are
Right.
we socialized? We are socialized to date more than one person. That's habit forming. We aren't
Mm-hmm.
socialized to date one person for life. We're socialized to go out on multiple dates and see who you choose, but
Right.
that's habit forming. So
Mm-hmm.
if you take shows like The Bachelorette or The Bachelor,
Right.
and that's a part of our social construct, and you have one of these guys kissing all of these women, trying to find out which one is the right one, and let's say he comes and pick one, he has already gotten so used to having more than one and fooling around with more than one. A ring doesn't change that.
Mm. Mm.
If I'm dating
Right.
and I'm dating one girl, women will marry a man who have two girlfriends, but expect the ring to change the behavior or expect the wedding day to change the behavior. It doesn't.
Right.
That it doesn't change the behavior. So we we raise our boys different to we raise our girls. The boys
Yes,
can
it's
go out
true.
and sow your wild oats, and when you get ready, you settle down. A girl
Mm.
is asked to keep herself chaste and
Yeah.
prepare for marriage.
Yeah.
But she's going to marry a man who has formed habits of sowing his wild oats, and a ring doesn't change that. A
Yeah.
vow doesn't change that.
Yeah.
So I had to deal with that chapter with the sociology of monogamy. Um, so what I'm saying is some of the contributing factors of biology. Another contributing factor is the way we are socialized. We are not
Mm-hmm.
socialized in a monogamous way. We're just not. So these habits and these behaviors that we form, and then you become a Christian or a pastor or a missionary or whatever, and you expect it to change, it doesn't. And even within you take the priest in the
Mm-hmm.
Catholic Church who takes a
Yeah.
vow to celibacy, you see what happens to them. They go
Yeah.
and fool around with the little boys because their
Yeah.
sexual urges they do not go away because they take a vow to celibacy. They
Yeah.
took a vow to celibacy from a woman, but then they go mess with the boys because they have to do something with these sexual urges they have.
Yeah.
And that has been a big mess for them. And
Mm-hmm.
infidelity has always been a big mess for churches,
Mm-hmm.
pastors, and it's been a big mess for Bill Clinton. What do you call it? Johnson. What's the other president name? Johnson.
JFK.
Um, Not well, him
No.
too. He
Right.
had his Marilyn Monroe.
Right.
Bill Clinton had his
Right.
Monica Lewinsky, and
Right.
Lady Bird Johnson's husband. What is his name again?
Lyndon B.
Oh, Lindy
Johnson.
B.
Lyndon
LBJ.
Johnson had a
LBJ.
lady called Daisy
Mm. Mm. Mm.
that he fooled around with, almost with the approval of his wife. So
Wow.
whether you're, my point there is whether you're a president, you're a pastor, you're a priest, or you're the pope, you struggle with these whole sexual urges that leads you into some type of um, infidelity or breaking of a vow.
Okay.
Some of it is habitual and some of it is temptation you give into, but it's not lasting. So, how
Okay.
do you now deal with,
Right.
and it come back to your question of saving the marriage? Do you, because you have infidelity in your relationship, throw away an ordinarily good relationship, a good family,
Mm.
where you can give your children the best chance to be socially responsible, give them a good education, stable psychologically? Do you throw all that away because there was a infraction in your marriage, and
Mm.
because you're so angry and so hurt, you throw out the baby with the bathwater? So
Mm.
that kind of thing is what the book deals with. So one
Right.
of the chapters in the book is called "How Do You Keep the Wrongdoer But Forgive the Wrong?"
Mm.
Mm.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
I was going to say, and that's challenging because usually it's the female who has to forgive the male. But if it's the female who went out, it's usually not extended the same graces or patience or forgiveness.
Yeah.
Um, how do we work on that? how, and
Well,
it,
and so this is not. I try not to make the book gender bias, to
Mhm.
give the
Mm.
male a pass and the female suffer. So the same thing is extended. However, we all know that infidelity is more prevalent among men than it is women, where you will find about 90% of men in a serious relationship, whether marriage, engaged, or dating relationship, would commit infidelity. You would only find about 70% of women.
Mm.
So women are not completely off the hook
Right.
because it's still high among
Right.
women if you talk about 70%. Um, so you deal with it now more from a male perspective because we are logical creatures.
Mm.
Once we say sorry and we want us to forgive you and you say okay, we go back to normal. We think that everything is good while your heart still hurts,
Yeah.
while your
Yeah.
emotions are still in shambles, while
Right.
you're still thinking about facing a public who knows that your husband is fooling around.
Yeah.
So you deal with it on a whole different level. There's a very, very, probably one of the most, the part of the book I love is a personal testimony from a wife in
Hmm.
chapter 8, um, where she spoke about how she was able to overcome the infidelity of her husband, keep her family, keep her marriage. Now she gets to
Mm.
enjoy, grow old together with her husband, see her children grow up and now enjoying her grandchildren, build a business together because she was able to find a way to navigate through the improprieties and keep her marriage together. And she offers very, very good advice
Mm.
from that perspective. I encourage anyone that's facing infidelity to read that, and they will be encouraged by that story.
Yeah. Now that's where I was going next because we had Valentine's Day not too long ago. I think it was actually last week, right? And so now maybe a couple of days later, as you say, people have temptations and maybe something happened and they're hurt. What advice or tips would you give them to say, okay, this is how you overcome that infraction. This is how you overcome, that cheating heart.
Well, I think a person must know their partner. Let's say it's a woman that has a man and she knows that he has a proclivity to cheat.
Mm.
She knows. She knows. She suspect, not only suspect, but she knows.
Wow.
Now, if you make a decision to stay in that relationship, it is saying you are saying to yourself, I would rather have deal with the emotional roller coaster or even the real possibility that this man loves me, but he just have a character flaw or a biological challenge.
Mm.
Um, and I'm not going to give him up because of that. And if you decide to stay, you have to program yourself psychologically to accept that.
Mm.
But if you can't deal with it, then it's best if you not deal with it, especially if you're unmarried. If you're married, that's a whole different kettle of fish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but to stay and search his phone, search his pocket, follow him in the car at night, um, and hope for that to change anything. If he get caught, it doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
Um, if you can have a really serious discussion and be ready, there's a chapter in the book, Can You Handle the Truth? And this is
Mm.
where the survey is. We did a monkey survey from men and women.
Mhm.
Can you really handle your husband or your wife saying, babe, I really love you and I don't want to lose you.
Mm.
But the truth is sometimes I'm tempted, and there are times when I'm tempted and I mess up,
Mm.
and I need for you to just not only understand, but I need for you to hold me accountable. I
Mm.
need for you to see anytime I'm going over the edge, just pull me up. Don't argue with me. Don't cuss me. Don't tell me I'm no good, this and that. And, women, if they tell their husband, babe, I messed up, I had whatever, she here, she's a bitch, she's a this, she's a that, she's a whore, she's a slut, she's a this,
Yeah.
that doesn't help. How do you have a wholesome conversation
Mm.
around what are the causes? Is it the way you grew up? Is it the way you were socialized? Is it
Right.
that you are so attracted to men? What is it? How can I help you? And we don't want to have those difficult conversations, and some of us don't have the strength to have it
Mm.
because we've been hurt so many times. You just don't have the strength to deal
Yeah.
with it. So that's a short answer to a very long question as to how you navigate that space. It's not a simple answer because
Yeah.
every situation is different. Now you have some men who have a woman, and they have one woman, two women, and they will tell you, I got more than one woman. And if
Mm.
you decide to stay, then you have made that decision.
Right.
But there's some who mess up, but they don't want somebody else. They want you.
Yeah.
So there are different advice that will come from different people, and one is different, of course, if you're married
Mm.
versus you are unmarried.
Yeah.
Because now let us be real. Let's say you give up the one man, cheating man, who is good to you, but he has this issue, and you go and find someone else. With the ratio of cheating men being at 90%, what are the chances of you finding someone who won't?
Yeah.
So, and that is the gymnastics you have to do, and the analysis that has to take place. So I know the show is only a half an hour and I watch the time, but I will say this. The book offers a conclusion.
Okay.
Let us hear the conclusion of the matter. And my own personal opinion is that monogamy is not natural. It is not biologic. We are not biologically wired to be so.
Mm-hmm.
Monogamy is spiritual.
Okay.
It is a spiritual discipline.
Mm-hmm.
It was ordained by God and it must be sustained by God.
Yeah.
It is a calling to a higher order of behavior. And if you want to live a monogamous life, you can't just try to live it naturally.
Mm.
You have to have God as a constant partner, holding you accountable by the teaching of his word, by the standard he set, what he expects from his children, um, by the love we have for him. If you love me, keep my commandments. So guess what? My significant other or wife or girlfriend, if I'm in God, becomes a beneficiary of my love for God. My
Mhm.
faithfulness to her is she becomes a beneficiary of my faithfulness and my love for God first,
Right.
and me
Yeah.
wanting to please God and follow his command. And because of that, I love you in spite of my urges, in spite of
Mhm.
what drives me to see the fine looking sister. My God. And
Yeah.
then she talked to me and then she smiles.
Mhm.
Whoo!
Thank God for
The only
Jesus.
thing that keeps me the only thing that keeps me from hunting is the love I have for God. And when I look at
Mm.
her and I see that she represents the glory of God,
Right.
then I don't want to damage that.
Yeah.
And that love grows for her. So that's why Jesus said, love your wife or love your as Christ
Right.
loved the church
Right.
and is willing to
Right.
give himself for it. Monogamy is not natural, it is
Yeah.
spiritual,
Right.
ordained by God to be sustained by God. And any one of us who want to find peace, contentment, productivity, settlement in their lives will find it within the context of a monogamous marriage
Yeah.
because it is possible to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good.
Wow, you unpacked a whole lot in a short amount of time. Um, and I will tell our listening audience, if you get the book, it is really good, and it
Yeah.
will give you a different perspective on life and maybe help you understand from different angles. And that's what we do here at the Living Well Show, try to bring different angles and different perspectives to help us all grow in our daily walk. So get the book. And Bishop, how can they get the book?
The book is on Amazon. There's also
Okay.
some at Infinite Solutions or at New Life. There used to be some at
Okay.
Save the Seed, but even if they go there and they're none there, they can request it and
Okay.
we'll make them available because we have some locally, so you don't have to order it for those of the persons who live in the BVI. They don't have to order it online.
Okay.
For the persons that might be away in America or wherever you are, Amazon.com, The Monogamy Mystery, John Cline. You'll find it there.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you being here, Bishop. It's a profound topic, and we may have to do a part two at some point because there's so much in there. I think you hit on some really good points because this is a real issue in 2022. I mean, this is a real issue with so many different talks about all kinds of love and relationships. And so, thank you for being here. And we pray that our audience have learned something to help them be better, do better, and to live better. That's the ultimate goal here. So,
Yeah.
we thank you for joining us. In that last words you want to have, Shanique?
No, just if you missed any part of the series, go back and watch, and then join us next week as we wrap up with part 4 of this month's Love series. We thank you for joining with us, and we do hope that you have a pleasant evening, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Have a good night.
Good
Take care.
night.
God bless.
God bless.